Coming up today, Korea's golf sensation Park Inbee claims a remarkable victory in the British Open, winning her 7th major and completing a historic Korea Grand Slam. President Park Geun-hye returns to work after a 5-day summer break at the presidential office. Labour reform and a possible temporary national holiday this month will top her agenda. Plus, Korea's current account surplus for the first 6 months of the year tops $50 billion. For the first time ever, the surplus for June is also a record monthly high of almost $12.2 billion. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 3rd of August. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start with Park Inbee's victory in Scotland that has written her into golf's history books. Winning the British Open on Sunday, the world #1 completed a career Grand Slam on the LPGA Tour. Park becomes just the 7th female player to win 4 different majors. Son Jung-in reports.
Top-ranked Park Inbee began the final round of the Women's British Open on Sunday, 3 shots off the lead set by fellow Korean Ko Jin-young. However, the tide turned after the 2 Koreans were tied, with Park shooting an eagle on the 14th hole, while Go bogeyed the 13th. Then Park went up by 1 with a birdie on the 16th, and Ko fell out of contention with a double bogey on the same hole. Park finished on 12 under 276 to win her 7th major overall title. And with that, she becomes the 7th female golfer in history to win at least 4 different majors over a career, with her earlier 3 victories at the Anna Inspiration, KPMG Women's PGA Championship, and the U.S. Women's Open. Park is the first woman to win the Classic Career Grand Slam since Sweden's Annika Sorenstam in 2003. After showing nothing but poise in rallying to win the British Open, Park said completing the slam was a dream come true and the greatest feat she has accomplished as a pro. Looking further down the scorecard, and it had a distinctly Korean feel. Ko Jin-young was second, and Korea's Yoo So-yeon tied with Korean-born New Zealander Lydia Ko for 3rd place. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, President Park Geun-hye has returned to work after a week-long summer break. From designating a special national holiday to boost public morale to special amnesty. Chae San takes us through the issues that are topping the president's agenda.
Upon returning from her week-long summer holiday, President Park Geun-hye will first discuss with her officials a proposal to declare August 14th this year as a temporary public holiday. Her spokesperson said the government had come up with the idea as part of its plan to boost public morale in time for the 70th anniversary of Korea's Liberation Day. The issue will be discussed at Tuesday's cabinet meeting. Liberation Day is marked on August 15th, the day in 1945 when Japan surrendered in World War II, also ending Japan's colonial rule over the Korean peninsula. While the 15th falls on a Saturday this year, the government is considering to designate Friday the 14th a temporary holiday to reflect President Park's hopes to instill national pride and boost public morale for Korea to start making an economic leap in the year of the 70th anniversary. The government is also seeking to boost domestic spending after the MERS outbreak by encouraging the Korean people to take an extra day off. Staying on the subject of economic revitalization, President Park is expected to accelerate her reform drive, especially concerning the labor sector. Having emphasized that public support is essential to the success of a reform drive, the president will likely continue to stress that structural reforms are vital to job creation and sustainable growth. Also topping the president's agenda would be deciding whether to include the country's business leaders when announcing her planned special amnesty around the time of Liberation Day. As Korea is close to declaring an official end to the MERS outbreak, President Park will need to think about holding those in charge of the country's lax response accountable and putting forth measures to enhance the nation's response to infectious diseases in the future. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Senior defense officials from South Korea and Japan will hold an annual meeting in Seoul on Wednesday to discuss a wide range of regional issues, including defense policies and ways to enhance bilateral cooperation. Officials say Korea will be represented by Yoon Sung-gu, Director General for International Policy at the Defense Ministry. Japan's delegate is Atsuo Suzuki, Deputy Director General of Tokyo's Defense Policy Bureau. The annual director-level defense talks between the two countries date back to 1994. Footage of a Korean man convicted of war crimes for collaborating with the Japanese military during World War II has emerged, in which he describes the sheer scale of Tokyo's sexual enslavement of Korean women. The Seoul-based Association for the Pacific War Victims released a videotaped interview with Song Byung-sop that was recorded in the early 1990s. In it, Song, who is now dead, remembers how there weren't any parts of Singapore or the Indonesian island of Sumatra that didn't have Korean women that had been trafficked in by Japan to serve its troops. He said the women were paid a pittance and the price for the women's services was stated clearly. In 1992, Song released a list of 61 women who served as military sex slaves for the Japanese army, but said countless Koreans had been drafted, so he could not put an exact figure on the number of women trafficked. Now, in economic news, and Korea posted yet another current account surplus in June, extending its surplus streak to a record 40 months. But it's not necessarily good news, as recent surpluses have more to do with falling imports rather than rising exports. Kim Min-ji has more.
In the black again. The Bank of Korea says the nation's current account surplus in June came to $12.2 billion, up more than 40% from the previous month. And with that, Korea has extended its surplus run to a record 40 straight months. For the first half combined, Korea's current account surplus hit a record $52.4 billion, which also marks the first time it has topped $50 billion in the 6-month period. While Korea has been setting a new record surplus in recent years, what's worrisome is that the surplus trend is reflective of a slow economy, as well as a slump in both exports and imports. In June, exports fell about 2% on year, while imports plunged 17%.
The impact of the MERS outbreak on consumption, as well as the tourism industry, is reflected in the figures. It comes amid slowing exports, showing the overall economy is weak.
While Korea is on track to reach the central bank's $98 billion current account surplus target for this year, experts say the government will need to take more stimulus measures to prop up investment and encourage domestic consumption to even out external balances. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, the number of workers in Korea earning less than minimum wage reached a record high earlier this year. In one of its latest reports, the OECD ranks Korea at the very top in terms of the proportion of underpaid workers. Park Se-young has the details.
Nearly 15% of Korean workers are earning the minimum wage or less. That's 1 out of 7 workers. According to the 2015 edition of the OECD Employment Outlook, the average proportion of workers earning the minimum wage or below it among the 20 OECD members is 5.5%. The United States remained below average with 4.3%, and Japan stood at just 2%. This puts Korea with 14.7% at the top of a list, followed by Latvia and Luxembourg. Given that the average wage for regular workers at Korea's largest companies is considered on par with global standards, the figures expose the chronic problem of a widening income gap in Asia's 4th largest economy. The latest report is based on data compiled from 2010 to 2013 and includes workers in the European Union that are being paid less than 105% of the national minimum wage. The OECD pointed out that the report may not be comprehensive as the data did not include small businesses with less than 10 employees. It also added that although the minimum wage system is common among the member countries, differences exist in implementation. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, mortgage loans issued by local banks continue to increase in July, normally the slow season for Korea's housing market. According to data compiled from 7 commercial banks, mortgage lending stood at a combined $276 billion at the end of last month, a rise of more than $450 million from June. When taking into consideration the increase of asset-backed securities at these banks, the actual surge in housing loans amounted to $2.9 billion, a 5-year high in terms of an increase. Experts attribute the increase to the government's deregulation drive and low borrowing rates. Data also shows that apartment transactions in the capital Seoul climbed nearly 89% on year in July. Now, as Korea declared a virtual end to the outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome last week, the hardest hit hospital, Samsung Medical Center in southern Seoul, resumed normal operations earlier today. The center, which began treating current patients from late last month after being partially closed due to the MERS outbreak, finalized the normalization of its services by starting to receive new outpatients as well. Now, along with the treatment of new patients, the hospital has also opened a special emergency room designed to treat emergency patients with respiratory problems. Malaysia's Transport Minister says airplane debris found on Reunion Island has been identified as part of a Boeing 777, the same type of aircraft as missing flight MH370. The wing surface, known as a Faperon, was flown to France for investigation over the weekend. Representatives from Malaysia, the US, China, France and Boeing itself are scheduled to meet on Wednesday to try and verify if the part is really from flight MH370. Now, a second piece of debris also washed up on this island in the Western Indian Ocean on Sunday. Was found but has been discounted as possibly from the plane. An official said it was part of a ladder and was not from an aircraft. The doomed Malaysia Airways plane vanished in March last year with 239 passengers and crew on board. North Korea appears to be installing a cover on its missile launch pad. Analysts say it could be preparing to fire a long-range missile in October to mark the 70th anniversary of its ruling Workers' Party and further withdrawing itself from the outside world, it seems. North Korea on Sunday pulled out of a major global military sports event. Connie Kim reports.
Japan's Kyodo News reported Sunday on new satellite imagery showing the installation of a cover over the launch pad at the Seohae Satellite Launching Station in Dongchangri, Cheolsan County. U.S. intelligence agencies say the details are unclear, but expect the installation to be completed this month. The development is especially concerning as covers were placed on the side and other parts of the launch pad in the final stages of North Korea's preparations for 2 separate long-range rocket launches in 2012. South Korea reported last month that North Korea had completed an upgrade to the launch pad that would allow it to fire a long-range missile twice the size of the rocket launched in 2012. There is speculation the preparations could be for a possible launch in October to mark the 70th anniversary of the founding of the North's ruling Workers' Party. The move would be sure to further isolate the regime from the international community, though there are signs it may already be taking steps in that direction. Pyongyang on Sunday notified the France-based organizer of an international military sports event to be held in Seoul in October that it'll not attend. Seoul's defense ministry says the North gave no reason for its decision. The North also recently rejected the South's invitation to an international security dialogue set to take place in Seoul next month. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, in much lighter news, and great news, in fact, for K-pop music fans out there, a massive concert dubbed Summer K-pop Festival will be held at the Seoul City Plaza on Tuesday from 7 p.m. local time. Those scheduled to perform include Gangnam-style star Psy and other Korean idols such as GOT7 and Tiara. The event, co-hosted by the Culture Ministry and the Korea Tourism Organization, is part of efforts to help the local tourism industry rebound from the MERS outbreak. The ministry says it will give foreign tourists free tickets and provide information about other attractions in Korea. Now, it was another uncomfortable night of tossing and turning for those of us here in Korea, and unfortunately the sticky tropical nights will continue for at least another week, as will the scorching daytime temperatures. The weather agency says temperatures will peak this week, with heatwave advisories set to be extended to most of Korea's southern regions over the next few days. Now, daytime highs today will range between 29 to 36 degrees Celsius. 36 will be seen in the southeastern city of Daegu today. Meanwhile, unstable air pressure means central regions, including Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province, have a 60% chance of rain later this afternoon. The weather agency has advised citizens to take sensible precautions against the heat, like staying indoors during the hottest afternoon hours and staying hydrated. Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broome. Have a wonderful day, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. We do hope to see you at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.